So here I am thinking to myself, oh my god, Guru, you're on the ball today. You reacted to Luke Rockhold versus Paulo Costa just hours after it was announced. And then I check my comments on the upload and I find out that in the background of a Dana White interview, the War Room fights that they have scheduled have been leaked. And there are so many amazing matchups. I need to react to all of them within one video. What's going on? Nate Diaz versus Khamzat Chimaev. They have had enough of Nate Diaz. Let's be real. Nate Diaz has been calling him out on Twitter, and Dana White felt to himself, you know what? Bet, dude. You're going to be taking on Khamzat Chimaev. They've had enough of him on Twitter, talking about how they aren't giving him fights. You want to fight? It's Khamzat Chimaev. Apparently, that was on the board. And then we look in the background at some other fights that have been made. Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. No one cares. That's how big some of these fights that have been leaked are. Israel Adesanya, Jared, no one cares about Israel Adesanya's next title defense, but I guess we can discuss that in this video as well. Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira is also on that card on July the 2nd, on that pay-per-view card, UFC 276. Pedro Munhoz versus Sean O'Malley. I've been saying this for weeks, though. That one has been verbally agreed on Twitter for a very long time between the pair of them, and they apparently wanted to fight a lot earlier, but Pedro Munhoz was a little bit injured, so they had to push it back to July. That's a very big announcement as well that we're going to have to break down in this video, but there are so many others that have been made. I think Paddy Pimblett has a matchup against Ottman Azaitar, which is currently in the works for UFC London. So that's pretty crazy as well. I mean, the UFC are either completely trolling us to another level here with some of these matchups that they've made. But oh my god, the announcements that are being made are actually ridiculous. And I love every single one of them. But some of them just don't make sense, to be honest with you. I've seen Jones versus Miocic at the top of July 30th. I thought apparently they were going to be fighting in September. Maybe this is like an unupdated War Room schedule that they're going with. So maybe they were planning on doing Jones versus Miocic on July 30th, which apparently they were planning on doing. But then afterwards, you know, they haven't really updated some of the stuff that they have on there. So, you know, this is just crazy. And I think we need to start with talking about Nate Diaz versus Khamzat Chimaev, because that might be the most interesting matchup out of all of them. I guess Covington's going through his legal stuff, and they can't really figure out a matchup for Khamzat Chimaev right now. But Nate Diaz, I tell you, this is a personal vendetta against Nate Diaz. I think he's been playing games a couple of times behind the scenes with the UFC, because I've always noticed with Nate Diaz on Twitter, he seems to mention fighting someone, and then when the UFC gives him like a viable option that can actually happen, he seems to just completely disrespect them and say, no, you're a coward. No, that guy's bad at fighting. I don't want him. Give me a real fighter. And the UFC finally basically said, okay, enough of these games. You're fighting Khamzat Chimaev if you want to fight next. So apparently Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz has been made, I guess just to keep Khamzat Chimaev busy. And what card was that apparently scheduled for? UFC 276? Is Chimaev healed up enough? I'm peeping my date on my screen right now. That's in 8 weeks. I mean, I'm liking an active Khamzat Chimaev, but the guy just went to war against Gilbert Burns, which honestly would kind of make sense as to why Nate Diaz took that matchup. Like, hey, this guy just got shown that he's not an immortal god that maybe he thought he was. His confidence might be a little bit of an all-time low. I'm going to catch him right after a war. 8 weeks training camp. Me versus Khamzat Chimaev. This is actually crazy to me. I think Nate's going to get absolutely destroyed. But at the same time, I don't mind. I know this sounds crazy. I don't mind his chances. I really don't. Now, I could actually see Chimaev being the one to maybe finally take the chin of Nate Diaz, because again, Nate Diaz recently hasn't been the most active of guys. That seems to be something that we repeat every single time Nate Diaz comes into fight. So it's going to be a bit of a lackluster first round, and he typically does get beaten up until he eventually comes back and wins anyway against anyone that he takes on. But I don't think you can just get beaten up by Khamzat Chimaev. Massive guy, really strong, ground game of his own. Like most guys that take on Nate Diaz, they're strikers and they don't really want to go to the ground with him. Even if they can out-grapple him in certain moments, they're not really good enough or adept enough on the ground to sort of like submit him. Like Masvidal got him to the ground, but landed a couple of shots and kind of stalled out some positions. Leon Edwards got him to the ground, landed a couple of shots, stalled out some positions. Conor McGregor even got him to the ground in their first fight that they had. Used a nice little X-sweep on him, ended up on top, landed a couple of shots, but sort of stalled out some positions and made Nate Diaz stand back up. So maybe this will be the first time that we see someone actually go for something on the ground against Nate Diaz. A lot of guys have been able to out-grapple him before, but he does have very good jiu-jitsu. I need to, like, take a deep breath here. I think Nate Diaz is definitely going to lose if it's a 3-rounder. I really do believe so. But my word, like, I'm actually somehow worried that maybe he flukes it, and like if it's a 5-rounder, Chimaev might gas from just being so confident that he's going to beat him up, and Nate Diaz just somehow survives. But at the same time, I just think Chimaev's ground and pound, if it is against a guy like Nate Diaz, is going to be so dominant that it's not going to be about if he finishes him. It's just going to be about if Nate Diaz can move to defend himself correctly in that matchup. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think Nate Diaz is going to get KO'd from ground and pound to Khamzat Chimaev, but I'm thinking if Chimaev takes his back as a massive guy for the weight class, or like takes mount against him. Remember, Leon Edwards had his back in certain moments in their fight. 1 hook in, almost 2 hooks in. If Chimaev can get that position as well on a Nate Diaz who, let's face it, although tough, is not an explosive guy. He's not physically strong for that weight class either. If Chimaev can just get him down and get his back and get mount maybe, I can see it just being a case of Nate wasn't moving. Nate Diaz fans complain, he wasn't dead yet. You can't stop that fight. He wasn't dead. We need to see him die, and all that kind of stuff that Nate Diaz fans will say. But I can see it being a thing of, well, Nate Diaz isn't improving his position. He's taken shots over and over again off Chimaev, and then maybe they finish the fight there. But man, I'm somehow intrigued by that. I don't know why. It's just that the durability of Nate Diaz always makes an intriguing matchup. And I've noticed it's the co-main event of that July card. So I'm also thinking to myself, hey. And Poirier, like, openly moved on from the Nate fight. So he must know something's going on. Like, oh, I'm not fighting Nate anymore, I guess. I've heard from the UFC I'm not fighting Nate anymore. I'm looking at the winner of Chandler versus Ferguson now. So Poirier must have had a bit of a heads up. Like, hey, we're focusing on something else for Nate. So, although this could be the biggest bait of all time, and before the contracts are signed, the UFC often does this. They sort of like put pressure on the fighter by like revealing the fight is going to happen. It's in the works. And then it's like pressure on the fighter to follow through and sign the contract. Man, I think Chimaev's going to beat him, but it just doesn't make sense. But I think a lot of the people that are saying this doesn't make any sense, although it doesn't make sense, a lot of them are saying that because they don't want to see Nate Diaz get completely humiliated for once. I think he's going to get humiliated. I can see like a controlled, like wrist control from Khamzat Chimaev and big shots as well. This is an interesting one. And there are many other matchups that we can talk about. Pedro Munhoz versus Sean. I don't really care about Adesanya Cannonier. We knew that was going to happen. Pedro Munhoz, Sean O'Malley. I've been talking about this for a very long time as well. I said it was verbally agreed. Everyone was like, who's Sean O'Malley fighting? I've been saying on my streams, like, it's Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munhoz. It's been verbally agreed. I don't know why this hasn't really been announced yet, but that is the next fight that's happening. Finally, Sean O'Malley against a top 10 opponent at bantamweight. Fair enough, he's past his prime a little bit, I would say, but still a very dangerous contender in the bantamweight division who went to at least a close fight with Jose Aldo. Aldo clearly won 29-28, but Munhoz arguably won the first round. The other two were quite close, but Aldo pulled ahead with volume and a couple more strikes every round in those cases, but I'm going to go Sean O'Malley there. I think Pedro Munhoz is way too small. It's just been shown that it's a 3-rounder because it's opening up the main card of a pay-per-view. So that's going to be a 3-rounder. Nice and handy for Sean O'Malley, not having to go 5 rounds. And I think he will go out there and have a great performance against Pedro Munhoz. Munhoz stands very square to his opponents. He's got a very big torso. He's a little bit of a wedge of a man in the bantamweight division. I don't see Sean O'Malley really trying to take his head off with punches. I can just see Sean O'Malley poking at his body with front kicks and chopping out his legs as well, because Sean O'Malley, in my opinion, has some of the most underrated leg kicks in the game. And I think Pedro Munhoz has kind of kicked himself out right now, in all honesty. In terms of like watching his fights, he doesn't seem to kick as much anymore to the legs. He doesn't seem to really be able to take one to give one the same way he used to. He seems to take a shot and then sort of reset himself a little bit more than just walking through shots the way he did against Cody Garbrandt, who is a big power puncher. So I think Pedro Munhoz may have taken a little bit too much damage for a bantamweight. He's a little bit small for the division as well. I don't even need to really check up the reach. I'm going to assume that Sean O'Malley has like a... I want to say he's probably going to have like a 6-inch reach advantage over Pedro Munhoz. Just looking at the pair of their arms. I'll check it right now. Pedro Munhoz. Let's have a little look at his reach real quick. Pedro Munhoz has a 65-inch reach. And Sean O'Malley has, I assume, a 72-inch reach. Or something along those lines. He's got like a weirdly long reach for his size. 72-inch reach, that's going to be a 7-inch reach advantage for Sean O'Malley to pepper him with jabs. I don't like that matchup for Pedro Munhoz. Plus, they're in a big cage, and he's taken a lot of damage recently. So I really like that matchup for Sean O'Malley. I think he's going to win that one and move on in the bantamweight division. But there are more fights to talk about that have been leaked. Outside of that one, Paddy Pimblett versus Ottman Azaitar is rumoured for July 23rd. And it's on their list. And it's on their list for UFC London. July 23rd. Before Aspinall Blades. Before Darren Till, Jack Hermansson. If those two were on that list and so was Pimblett Azaitar, you could wonder to yourself, well, they've confirmed those top two, which they have actually confirmed by now, but maybe they've only just put on the idea of Pimblett versus Azaitar. But this tells me they were thinking about Pimblett Azaitar and making that fight happen before they even figured out what they were going to do with Aspinall or Darren Till. So this is like a real thing. Like, I think this is definitely going to happen. And as much as I would love for Paddy Pimblett to succeed, because our new idea of high pay-per-view numbers is 400k, probably going to go with Ottman Azaitar by KO there. Pretty big power puncher. On roids, confirmed. Like, you weren't smuggling in potatoes to the Fight Island Hotel at Abu Dhabi, were you? Let's be real, Ali Abdelaziz. You weren't smuggling in potatoes, you know what I mean? To make some chaps on the fireplace. They were smuggling in some sauce for him, I would imagine. Or maybe an IV to help with the weight cut, who knows? But even still, there's some dirtiness there. So one can assume that maybe there's going to be some roidage there as well. Very explosive guy. His brother has been caught on roids before in his own career. Back in the UFC. Maybe for Pimblett, like, it's just like I know I can get him down. He's been out for a very long time. He's had a bunch of problems in his career recently. So now he's going to come back in. He's going to overlook me and I'm going to shoot a perfect double leg and get on top of him and do some stuff there. So if Pimblett does win this one, it's a hell of a win in the division. And also, I guess for them, instead of matching him up against a Jim Miller, who equally might be able to just flatline KO him in the first round with that bad head movement, I guess they're thinking to themselves, well, if Jim Miller beats him, we're kind of stuck with Jim Miller. You know what I mean? Or if this old guy beats him, we're stuck with this old guy to promote moving forward. But if Ottman Azaitar KOs him, who's already a big name in himself, Azaitar, then we've got Ottman Azaitar to promote and move forward in the division. So I'm thinking that's what they're thinking here. They've got 2 stars on a massive card, big name card. Paddy Pimblett, Ottman Azaitar. I'm going to lean towards Ottman Azaitar right now. I'm going to watch some old Ottman Azaitar fights before I give my final decision. Obviously, I'll wait until the card's coming up before I do my full card predictions and stuff like that. And if I notice any moments where Ottman Azaitar is being easily out-grappled by some regional guy that I think is worse at grappling than Paddy Pimblett, then maybe that'll change my mind, or maybe I'll give Paddy Pimblett more of a chance. But as far as I'm aware from my recent or like previous research of Ottman Azaitar's career, there ain't none of those moments. So, I'm going to be going with Pimblett getting a little bit too comfortable. and Ottman Azaitar putting him out cold because Ottman Azaitar is a savage. However, Teemu Pukkanen, one of the worst chins of all time. Kamar Worthy, one of the worst chins of all time. Just saying. So maybe there's like... Does Ottman Azaitar have crazy power? Likely. But are the people that he's fighting terribly chinned opponents? Also confirmed as a fact as well, I would say. So, I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one, but I assume Ottman's going to be the favourite, and I would side with Ottman Azaitar in that matchup as well. Yeah. Someone's put here, Ottman, the same dude that scaled the building on Fight Island to cheat in his fight. It sounds like a film moment, but that genuinely happened. He had a guy scale a building across balconies to get a rucksack full of potatoes into his hotel room on Fight Island. Like, there's some sus stuff going on. You know what I mean? Jesus, these fight announcements. And even Jones versus Miocic, July 30th. Apparently that was supposed to be at the start of July, and then Stipe said I won't be ready until September, so I guess they now moved it to July 30th, and maybe are putting pressure on Stipe Miocic there, like, hey, turns out I am going to be ready a little bit earlier, let's do it at the end of July, we'll pay you a little bit more money maybe, like an extra 500k his way, might change some things about when he's going to be ready for that matchup. Wow. Some of the matchups, yeah, are so silly to me that I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, is it a bait? You know? I will be honest. But then the UFC would have never done something. Okay, it's May, not April. Just assuming maybe there might have been an April thing going on. But, Jones Miocic, July 30th. I'm going to be picking Jones in that matchup. I actually think Miocic is on his way out of his career. You can't be as inactive as he's been without like a true purpose in why you're being inactive. Like John Jones wanted to bulk himself up for the heavyweight division and put his life back on track. With Stipe Miocic, I feel like he's just been enjoying life because he's a millionaire, and why wouldn't he enjoy life for a little bit? So I could see John Jones, who's obviously on roids, we know that, going in there and beating Stipe Miocic, maybe out grappling him, ending up on top as a massive guy. I know DC wasn't really able to out-grapple Stipe Miocic, but in certain moments he was, and I'd argue John Jones, if not a better technique-wise wrestler than DC, which already can be argued, is at least a better athlete than DC, and he's going to be a bigger framed heavyweight that's going to have a lot more leverage in some of those takedowns and stuff like that. So yeah, I could see Jones winning that one as well. What is going on? A couple of days ago, we get the announcements of all announcements between Blades, Aspinall, Till, Hermanson, and all this. And now we get this leaked. Like, wouldn't they think about that? Hey, let's do the... Like, of all the places they could have done an interview with Dana White, hey, let's do it in this war room where... Okay, what's the background going to be? Are we going to have a green screen? No, let's do it where all of our future fight announcements are in the background. My God. And let's not forget about Damir Hadzovic versus Mark Jacasey, everyone. No. Wow. I kind of want to just talk more about O'Malley Munoz or Diaz Chimaev. Let's see some of the comments here. They really trying to hurt Nate. Oh my goodness. Skinny Bets finding his comment everywhere. What is going on? Nate gonna get destroyed if this is real. Doesn't make sense. IMO. Legalized murder. Like, I don't know. There is a... I tell you this. I will very, very confidently pick Khamzat Chimaev in the build-up. But when that bell sounds, and I'm watching Chimaev dominate Nate Diaz, there's gonna be a fluctuation of heartbeat. Like, oh God, is he gonna somehow fucking survive this? And Chimaev, like, loses, and now we've got Nate Diaz defeating Khamzat Chimaev, who at one point was, like, the guy to beat Adesanya and Usman in the same night. Like, God, this sport is... If Nate pulls it off, like, yeah, someone put it in there. If Nate pulled off the upset, though, yeah, another upset, someone said, but, I guess it was against McGregor, but I think this guy was referencing the Edwards fight, even though it wasn't really an upset, but... Yeah, I can see Chimaev dominantly winning that one. And if I was Team Chimaev, I'm pushing for a 3-rounder there. 100%. Because I will have no worries about him going 3 rounds. If that was his first 3-rounder against Gilbert Burns in a war where he got rocked and dropped, Diaz don't have that kind of power to put him on his ass in a fight the same way Gilbert Burns does. And I would argue Diaz doesn't really have the same athletic ability off bottom to put him in those kind of threatening submission positions either. So I think he's going to have a lot of an easier time out wrestling Nate Diaz. Maybe the jiu-jitsu on the ground will still be dangerous, but I think he's going to be able to pass into dominant positions a little bit more easily than he can against a little ball of muscle that is Gilbert Burns. Because they're both like the same height, except Chimaev is a little bit taller. But if you look at their bodies, you just know which one the vegan is. Wow. I can't. Let's not forget Romero versus Alex Pelosi. But either way, wow. I'm shocked by this. I'm absolutely shocked by this information coming out. I wish I could see more. Is there anything else in... I guess they've already covered all of the stuff that's in the background. Like, they've shown, like, what... Let's read. Selecki, Da Silva, Mina versus No One Cares. Damon Jackson, Stolze, St. Denis, we know about that one. Molina, Zamagulov, we know about that. Like, none of these matchups really make sense. I guess they're giving Karolina Kowalkiewicz one more chance, which is interesting. I just knocked over a tower of 2 Pepsi cans beside me during this video. That's how much I care about some of these announcements. God, July. I mean, I've been really tearing apart the UFC between April and March because some of the cards have just borderline been unacceptable, and I stand by that. They have been. But if this is the summer we're getting, this is a good summer. This is a really, really good summer. And I'm really looking forward to it. Has any other page got any other information on this? Let me check Full Violence or something like that. I'm sure they've posted something. I mean, I guess let's talk a bit about let's talk a bit about Adesanya Cannonier. We already knew that, though. You know what I mean? We really... Oh, wait. No. Whoa! Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith. Okay. No one's talking about that one. I'm seeing that one right there. Where's the comments on that one? Okay, that's a big one at light heavyweight. Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith. Okay. Saturday, July 30th. So that's the July 30th card. And they've still got a co-main event to be determined. So Jones Miocic, co-main undecided. Probably a title fight. Figueiredo, someone. Moreno 4. Figueiredo, Cara France. If Figueiredo's healthy enough for it, we'll see. Maybe an Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw. We'll see how active Aljo wants to be. Maybe an Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway 3 as the co-main event. Yes, as the co-main event. Okay, UFC. You've seen my videos complaining about you. And you've met me and you've raised me. Oh. Wow. Okay, I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay. Who did I think I was posting that Paulo Costa Luke Rockhold video? I should have double checked, because now I've posted that and people are gonna be like, does he not know? I know. I've seen the information. And I'm loving it. Adesanya Cannonier. Adesanya leg kicks at range for 5 rounds. God, man, you know the fights are good when an Adesanya title defense is like overlooked and no one cares about it. But we kind of knew it was coming, so that's probably why it is being overlooked. But these other fights are just bonkers. But I'm going to go with Adesanya leg kicking Cannonier at range for 5 rounds. Really boring snooze fest. But those other fights, I'm telling you, Chimaev definitely beats Diaz. If I'm his management, let's make it a fight. Let's make it a 3-rounder. But it's the co-main event, and Nate Diaz likes his 5 rounds, so I definitely see it happening. Dude, some of these comments, man. Look at these comments. Dana really trying to get rid of Nate. Oh, they killing off Nate like a TV series. Doesn't make any sense. Are they trying to get Nate killed, but Poirier Diaz makes sense? Another top contender at lightweight in a similar positions rankings-wise to Chimaev at welterweight. Diaz fans with their, doesn't make sense for him to fight ranked guys anymore. Please, Dana, please. Don't let us see this happen to him. Ah, lovely stuff. I'm going to see Chimaev beat him. But I'll worry. I will worry that that fucking vegan fucking heavy bag somehow endures the damage enough to come back and win. Because Chimaev's the type of guy to be like, I'm not going to hold back. Like, I don't see Chimaev being the guy who's going to, you know, time to hold back and reserve my cardio. Like, if Chimaev's beating you, he's going to continue to do so. Like, he's not going to be like, well, that's 4 ground and pound shots. I've won this round. Time to keep control time. You know what I mean? He's going to really go for a finish. Could we see Nate Diaz finished? I believe so. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.